Tonight, Attorney General of the Federation receives NDDC forensic report from Niger Delta Minister Godswill Akpabio. Report shows that oil companies operating in Nigeria owe the country $4 billion, also 13,000 projects uncompleted. Lagos High Court freezes 19.1 billion naira belonging to former MD of Bank PHB, Francis Atuche, lodged in 24 banks. Also to forfeit, and Governor of Kebbi State says there's hope for a bumper harvest despite the insecurity situation in the north. Also rejects the idea of civilians bearing arms. Defense Headquarters releases details of over 5,000 repentant Boko Haram terrorists, just as the Chief of Defense Staff, General Lucky Rabor, warned civilians against bearing arms. And on the foreign scene, more than 15 people have died following flash floods and tornadoes in the northeast of the United States. Many others are said to be trapped there. Plus, international news from our London studio.
On business news tonight, Vice President Professor Yemi Oshibajo lists policy actions to drive industrialization through continental free trade.
On sports news tonight, the Minister of Youth and Sports Development, Sunday Daria, receives heroic para-powerlifters at the Paralympic Games back home from Tokyo, Japan.
And from Abuja, the Senate Committee on Finance continues public hearing. Nigeria Communications Commission now ready to deploy 5G across the country, says spectrum license open for bidding.
The audited report of the Niger Delta Development Commission indicates that oil companies operating in Nigeria are owing the country $4 billion. The report also shows that several projects initiated by the NDDC are yet to be completed. Minister of the Niger Delta, Godswill Akpabio, submitted the audited report to the Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami. For the AGF, it is worrisome that the NDDC received 6 trillion naira in 19 years, yet more than 13,000 projects remain uncompleted.
Stacked in these bags is the final report of the forensic audit of the Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC. President Muhammadu Buhari had in October 2019 approved the audit of the operations of the commission from 2001 to 2019 following allegations of corruption in the agency. After 16 months, the report is being presented to the federal government for action.
Thank you very much. The provision of Public Procurement Act should be strictly adhered to, and all violations to the Act and the award of contracts, such as contract splitting and other due process violations, must be avoided, and if found, should be punished.
According to the report, the Commission operated over 300 accounts in commercial banks. It further states that efforts should be made to recover $4 billion outstanding contributions from oil companies. The report adds that the Commission received over 6 trillion naira in 19 years, and over 13,000 projects have been abandoned.
Collectively, it was agreed that so much money had gone into the NDDC since inception in 2001, but very little was seen on the ground. Littered around the whole Niger Delta were uncompleted projects, some abandoned, some ongoing. At that time, we said over 9,000 or 10,000. But the auditors have told us today that the abandoned projects are over 13,000.
It is on record that between 2001 and 2019, the federal government has approved 3,375 billion 735,776,794 naira 93 kobo as budgetary allocation, and 2,420,948,894,191 kobo as income from statutory and non-statutory sources, which brings the total figure to the sum of approximately 6 trillion naira given to the Niger Delta Development Commission. The federal government will, without hesitation, strategically implement all aspects of the audit exercise that will promote probity and greater prosperity for the Niger Delta region and Nigeria as a whole.
The recommendation of this report is expected to feature prominently when the President decides to inaugurate the board of the Commission.
The governor of Kebbi State, Abubakar Bagudu, believes that legalizing the carrying of arms would spell doom for the country. He explains that governments at all levels must pursue programs that bring about peace in the country and ensure that Nigerians enjoy freedom of movement wherever they may be. He also adds that decades of infrastructural decay in the country is fueling insecurity. The governor was on our program, Politics Today.
What the idea of tagging anybody who is holding ammunition in an organized manner and terrorizing people, a terrorist. But we need to say, who are we, whatever we call them, and that process is it's a process that needs everyone to get involved. And that's why we have representatives, so that they can force a debate, so that we can be clear, the drafting can be clear. And I'm sure President Buhari will not hesitate to sign any legislation or to even introduce it if there's clarity. But this clarity has to be supported. President Buhari is very, very angry at any person who is committing a crime, talk less of terrorizing, maiming, kidnapping, irrespective of whether he's Fulani or not. And he has instructed service chiefs severally, and that has been in the presence, he has repeated that with us, and we know, we have heard from the service chief, he has instructed them severally to take the harshest measures against those people. We have the collective interest to be vigilant, to support security agencies, also to support them in such a way that they will function more effectively. We have from guards in our communities, from vigilantes, from different community policing organs. We are increasingly having cooperative and community-driven support.
Governor Bagudu also explains that despite the current security challenges, there is hope that farmers would soon experience a better farming season.
The existential threat is very, very harsh word to use because
the farming communities have been attacked. They cannot go to their farms.
Yes, regrettably, but more progress has been made. A lot of people in Borno State, for example, have returned to their communities, and from what the governor is telling us, we are looking at a bumper harvest, more than any that has been seen in the last 10 years. In other communities have improved, have expanded production. The availability of financing support, anchor borrower support, interventions by homeschool feeding program has mobilized production. And farmers are increasingly recording higher yields, which is compensating for the security-related challenge.
The Kaduna state government has banned the transportation of livestock from the state to other states with immediate effect. The State Commissioner for Internal Security and Home Affairs, Samuel Aruwan, says in a statement that the decision was taken after wide consultations and thorough security reviews. It explains that the ban also prohibits the transportation of livestock into Kaduna State from other states. He further warns that the transportation of donkeys into Kaduna State is a criminal offence, and anyone found engaging in such activity will be prosecuted accordingly. The commissioner further added that Kabo Weekly Market, which usually holds every Tuesday in Kaduna North Local Government Area, has been suspended with immediate effect, warning that directives will be vigorously enforced by security agencies. In the meantime, police authorities in Kaduna State say they have arrested 2 suspects in connection with the abduction of 39 students of Federal College of Forestry Mechanization in Afaka Igabi Local Government Area of Kaduna State in March this year. According to a spokesperson of the Kaduna Police Command, the suspects were arrested around Askola area of Nnamdi Azikiwe bypass in Kaduna Metropolis on Tuesday. He adds that the arrest was made possible through credible intelligence information following the incident since March 2021. Plateau State citizens have been asked to work with security agencies in restoring peace to the state by reporting suspected criminal activities and misconduct of personnel. The Chief of Defense Staff, General Lucky Rabo, made the appeal during a visit to Jos, the Plateau State capital, to assess the security situation there, giving assurances that peace will be restored and future attacks prevented.
The headquarters of Operation Safe Haven in Jos, the Plateau State capital, is the first port of call for the Chief of Defense Staff, General Lucky Rabo. He is on a visit to assess the security situation in the aftermath of killings in Plateau State. But first, he meets with the commander and officers of the Joint Security Forces. From there, he proceeds to the Government House, where the state governor expresses his concerns over the security breach in the state.
Today in Plateau, people should learn to live in peace. Where there were injustices, we rectified them. And so Plateau is a home for everybody. And Mr. President's passion about this place is, I don't think anybody needs to tell him.
General Irabo's visit also takes him to traditional and religious leaders and other government officials, including lawmakers, for an interactive session.
The whole essence is to have peace, and we're going to achieve peace. So I need you to please reorient or educate those who have that wrong notion, believing that until we have 2 captains in 1 ship, which is right here, then things wouldn't work. No, it will not work. That is not the way to go.
To ascertain the level of damage in affected areas, the CDS moves on to inspect Rukuba Road, where over 20 travelers were killed, and Bassa, where houses were looted, burnt, and farmland destroyed. After the inspection, he admonishes all not to take up arms against their neighbors.
You, as an individual, you have no right whatsoever to limit the liberty, or, if you like, you have no right to do harm to your neighbor. And if we, every one of us, do that, then there will be no reason whatsoever for us to take up arms against our neighbors.
With assurances from the Chief of Defense Staff to restore peace in the state, citizens are advised to also cooperate with security forces in ensuring that criminal elements in the society are not shielded by providing necessary information.
In part 2, after the break, Secretary to the Government of the Federation appeals to states to support the federal government in ending the incessant strikes in the health sector. Join us again. Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10, coming to you live from Lagos. Here are the main stories. Attorney General of the Federation receives NDDC forensic report from Niger Delta Minister Godswill Akpabio. Report shows that oil companies operating in the country owe Nigeria $4 billion. Also, 13,000 projects uncompleted. Governor of Kebbi State says there is hope for a bumper harvest despite the insecurity situation in the north. Also rejects the idea of civilians bearing arms. Defense Headquarters releases details of over 5,000 repentant Boko Haram terrorists. Just as the Chief of Defense Staff, General Lucky Rabo, warns civilians against bearing arms. More than 15 people have died following flash floods and tornadoes in the northeast of the United States. Many are said to be trapped. More on security, as over 5,000 terrorists have surrendered to the Nigerian army in the past 1 month. This is according to the Acting Director, Defense Media Operations, Brigadier General Bernard Onyoko. The army states that Nigerian troops have been able to reduce the activities of the Indigenous People of Biafra, IPOB, and the Eastern Security Network, ESN, in the southeast, and economic sabotage in the southern parts of the country through Operation Hadinkai, Hadarindaji, Safe Haven, Wellstroke, Delta Safe, and several non-kinetic operations. Our correspondent, Kayla Megwa, reports.
As Nigeria battles insecurity, the Nigerian army is giving another update on its successes so far in the various theater commands across the country.
Within the last few weeks, more than 5,819 terrorists comprising of foot soldiers and their commanders have surrendered with their families to own troops in the northeast zone of the country.
It's been 12 years of conflict with Boko Haram, and over 100,000 people have been killed so far, with hundreds still in captivity and 3.2 million internally displaced persons. The impact of this 12-year war has devastated Nigeria in ways she may never heal from. Questions about what should be done with surrendered terrorists have lingered.
We've never had such large numbers of people defecting from the other side back to the Nigerian side, mainly as a result of many issues within the theater, issues of infighting among the various factions of the terrorist groups.
The governor of one of the states worst hit by Boko Haram, Borno State, is also in favor of reintegration of terrorists into the society.
Examples of countries that won't go through, that have gone through protracted internal strife, crisis, and have resolved it based on peace building, including Liberia, Sierra Leone, Mozambique, Colombia, Rwanda, among others. And therefore, yes, you are right. This is also another humanitarian crisis, but I think the state government and the federal government have the capacity to contain this situation. The President is addressing the emerging humanitarian crisis as relates the ongoing surrender by the insurgents. We are on top of it.
Can a repentant terrorist successfully be reintegrated and accepted by the Nigerian people? What are the legal ramifications? Can Nigeria one day have a president who is a repentant terrorist? Reintegrating terrorists into the society is practiced all over the world, but in Nigeria, a country where its people want to see that these perpetrators of death and destruction are given the maximum penalty that there is, this might be a hard pill to swallow. Kayla Megwa, Channels Television News.
Troops of 25 Brigade operating under the Joint Task Force in the Northeast, Operation Hadinkai, have killed 4 Islamic State West Africa province fighters. The terrorists, who were on espionage along Damboa Bulabulin Maiduguri Road, ran into a fighting patrol team at Kukawa and were neutralized in the firefight that ensued with the troops. According to the Director, Army Public Relations, Brigadier General Onyema Wachukwu, the troops recovered 4 AK-47 rifles and 4 magazines, each loaded with 30 rounds of 7.62mm ammunition from the terrorists. In a separate operation, troops of 195 Battalion, Sector 1, in conjunction with elements of Civilian Joint Task Force at Dusman Muna Garage, Borno State, have also eliminated 2 ISWAP terrorists in an ambush conducted along an identified ISWAP terrorist crossing point at Musari village. The troops also captured and destroyed an ISWAP's logistics vehicle conveying assorted goods and contraband items belonging to members of the terrorist group. The Kogi State government is threatening to take legal action against the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission for what it describes as a deliberate attempt to malign the integrity of the state governor, Yahaya Bello, over allegations that 20 billion naira salary bailout funds were deposited in a fixed income account. The state government describes as false and malicious claims by the EFCC that the governor did not disburse the said funds released by the federal government in 2019 for payment of salary arrears. Briefing journalists in Abuja, the state's Commissioner for Information and Communication, Kingsley Fowle, said the state used the money to pay salaries in October 2019.
The Kogi State government vehemently denies having the sum of 19,333,333,333,333 kobo or any other sum in a fixed deposit account with Sterling Bank PLC, as alleged. The Kogi State government states that as of the 23rd day of July 2019, when we utilized the monies for the payment of salaries and allowances to Kogi State civil servants, and up to the 31st day of August 2021, when the purported court order was produced, it had approximately 46 million naira cumulatively in all the salary and bailout accounts it operates. While we cannot estimate the extent of the damage caused by this unwarranted attack of the EFCC to the image of the state and the reputation of the governor and his entire team, including members of the financial team whose names have been mentioned and preserved forever on the internet in relation to this disgraceful episode, we believe, apart from other legal actions which will be taken against the EFCC, that this press release is most necessary to set the record straight and disabuse the minds of Nigerians who have received this fake news.
Commissioners of health across the country are meeting in Abuja to discuss ways to strengthen the health system at the subnational level. They're discussing strategies to help Nigeria achieve universal health coverage. The Minister of State for Health, Senator Olorinimbe Mamora, stated the need for collaboration between states and the federal government in this regard. On his part, Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mr. Boss Mustafa, who is also attending the meeting, equally appeals to commissioners to address the issues of incessant strike actions, which, according to him, have now placed the country's health sector on autopilot.
It's a gathering of health commissioners from the 36 states of the Federation with heads of government, ministries and parastatals to discuss how to strengthen Nigeria's health system. Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mr. Boss Mustafa, appeals to the commissioners to help address the problem of incessant strikes by health workers, which he says has put the sector on autopilot.
The federal government also expects that you will find time as policy and decision makers to address the root causes of incessant labor crisis in the health sector. We are now in autopilot as far as crisis in the health sector is concerned.
Nigeria has poor health indices as over 900 women die out of every 100,000 live births, and 58 children out of every 1,000 live births die within their first year. The convener of this meeting underscores the importance of addressing this challenge.
The indices from Nigeria is disturbing. Burdens, maternal mortality, under-5 mortality, tuberculosis, malaria, and we need this picture to change.
The Minister of State for Health also highlights what the government is doing to increase health financing in the country.
We are currently working with the Finance Ministry to explore strategies on how to galvanize additional domestic resources for financing health through poor health taxes. there is donor fatigue. That is the truth.
Inadequate financing is a major reason for industrial unrests in Nigeria's health sector, as is the case with the ongoing strike by resident doctors who accuse some states of owing salaries as much as 20 months.
I think it's not a lack of people wanting to compensate health workers. I think part of the problem is the constraints, the fiscal constraints that we face. There's no lack of willingness. It's a constraint of finances that is causing that.
It is hoped that at the end of the two-day meeting in Abuja, the Commissioners for Health will be able to proffer solutions to some of the problems facing the health sector.
Women and youths in Obinze, Owerri West local government area of Imo State, one of the communities hosting the Federal University of Technology, Owerri, have staged a peaceful protest against the school management, whom they accuse of land grabbing and forceful takeover of their ancestral lands. The protesters took to the streets calling on the Futo management to leave their land. But the Vice-Chancellor of the university says the land was allocated by the government and it has the necessary papers to back the claim.
Established in the year 1980, the Federal University of Technology, Owerri, Imo State, sits on a landmass of about 4,048 hectares. Due to its large landmass, about 9 autonomous communities, including Obinze, play host to the Federal University. But over time, the problems of land acquisition, land grabbing and encroachment have reared their ugly heads, putting both the school management and host communities at loggerheads. This unpleasant situation is why women and youths from Umunebo and Uboku communities of Obinze have taken to the streets to protest against the management of Futo. Clad in black and carrying placards with various inscriptions and chanting songs to announce their displeasure, they allege that the management of Futo forcefully took over their land for the purpose of building a medical school and school of pharmacy. According to them, the school did not follow due process and is robbing them of their ancestral inheritance.
We are here because we are not happy. They've taken our land. They have taken Army. Army is Obinze. Redemption, Army Barracks is Obinze. Redemption Estate, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, phase 5 and 6. They have taken it. And this one, our children have built many houses there. And they destroyed, they demolished the whole houses. And our children are still living there. But now, they can't live there.
Meanwhile, in a meeting with the state government at the university premises, the Vice-Chancellor of the university says the land was officially allocated to the school by the government and the school has all the legal papers.
We want peace. We want access to our land to continue our developmental strides. In the establishment of our medical school, school of pharmacy, and nursing and teaching hospital.
Although discussions are ongoing between both parties, these protesting women say they will continue to fight for their rights.
More protests now, this time in Lagos State, as parents of model college students have staged a peaceful protest over the increase of boarding fees. The parents moved from the Ikeja Mall through Alausa, but were stopped by police who prevented them from getting to the Lagos State House of Assembly. The National Coordinator of Education Rights Campaign, Mr. Hassan Soweto, says parents cannot afford to pay 50,000 naira per child, especially during the present economic challenges. Last week, the State Commissioner for Education, Mrs. Folashade Adefisayo, in a statement revealed that the upward review is in the interest of all students in 32 model colleges across the state. She says the 50,000 naira per term is premised on the realization that the state government will bear the 75,000 naira subsidy per child, while the school will receive subventions per term to cater for the expected gaps.
members of the public need to be appropriately informed that Lagos State government, while creating the impression that it's implementing free education in the state, is actually commercializing education and increasing fees to a level that is unaffordable by the downtrodden, by the poor masses and workers of Lagos State. We are opposed to the fee increment. We are demanding a body feeding fee of not more than 30,000 naira.
The Taraba State Governor, Darius Ishaku, has issued a stern warning to residents of the Mambila Plateau not to sell lands to selfish politicians who stormed the area in order to benefit from compensations meant for the Mambila hydroelectric power project site. He was speaking when he received members of the Kakara tea farming community from the Mambila Plateau who came to appreciate him for restoring peace and empowering them when they lost hope in the crisis that engulfed the area a few years ago. The governor asked that under no guise will his administration allow anyone tamper with the already existing peace that once eluded them.
For people to sit in Abuja and come here and sneak in here and take data of people and say they are enrolled them and giving them job is wrong. It's counter the spirit of the MOU we signed with the Federal Ministry of Power. I am the landlord. I didn't give myself, the Constitution gave me that power. You want to build here, you come to me. I was the minister, I went to other governors, I met them, we negotiated, we built a dam. I finished the Kashmir. Go to the one that they are building in Niger State. All those are my handwork. The one they finished in Kaduna. There is nothing there, cooperation. The federal government has the mind and the power to do that. And then we'll cooperate with the state government and we'll get that done. Don't sell any land. The state government will tell you the stages we will go when the time comes.
Legal matters now. A Lagos High Court in Ikeja has frozen assets and funds worth about 19 billion naira belonging to a convicted former managing director of the defunct bank PHB, Mr. Francis Atuche, allegedly kept in 24 banks. Mr. Atuche is also to forfeit properties and firms in Nigeria and in London. Justice Latifat Akunu made the order sequel to an August 17 application by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission between the federal governments on the one hand and Atuche and Ugu Anyanwu as first and second defendants. In June 2021, the judge sentenced Atuche to a 6-year jail term for the offense of stealing the sum of 25.7 billion naira belonging to the bank. Anyanwu, who served as his former chief financial officer at the bank, was also sentenced to a jail term of 4 years. Justice Okunu, while sentencing the duo, ordered that they make restitution of the 25.7 billion naira to the federal government to replace the funds stolen from the public to bail out the bank. He held that an order is made restraining the first defendant, whether by himself or acting through the persons or entities listed, or such other persons, including but not limited to his family members or agents, from removing, alienating, disposing of, dealing with, or diminishing the values of assets. Gloria Mizoke has more news for us in our Abuja studio. Hi, Gloria. Great to see you.
Hello, Amarachi. Good to see you. And here in Abuja, the Nigeria Communications Commission says it's ready to deploy the 5G spectrum by 2022. CEO of the NCC, Umar Dambata, stated this at the MTEF public hearing of the Senate. According to him, the 5G deployment plan has been submitted to the federal government, and each slot would go for a reserve price of 75 billion naira.
We're projecting to get 115 billion naira in 2022. That projection did not take into consideration the 5G spectrum auction that we intend to do. And it is very, very important, Mr. Chairman, to stress this. Each slot of the 5G spectrum is going to be, is going for a reserve price. The reserve price is 75 billion naira. Okay, and in an auction, it can go as high as 100 billion, if not more. We have submitted to government the 5G deployment plan. We have constituted the 5G auction committee, and they have virtually concluded their work. And we have the spectrum itself, to be auctioned. So these three things, we're ready. We're just waiting for government, to give us the nod, to proceed.
The Nigeria Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, NEITI, has signed a Memorandum of Understanding with the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, ICPC, to monitor illicit transactions in the oil and gas sector. The agreement aims to ensure accountability in the sector. Speaking at a brief ceremony to sign the agreement, the Executive Secretary of NEITI, Dr. Oji Obunaya Oji, said the partnership was to facilitate swift investigations into sharp practices in the sector.
The ICPC and NEITI are in this together. Our job is specifically in the oil, gas and mining sector, in the extractive industry, which we are now expanding to forestry, environment, energy transition, and so on. And we do think that working with you, sir, will strengthen our resolve to reward good conduct through incentives, and as well hold accountable those who will take our mandate for granted by specific consequences, sanctions for bad behavior. We think that our report has enormous information and data that we can share with you. And we do not think that people should take the enormous energy, time, and resources being invested in our work for granted. That's why we're here. And we're very grateful that you've made this, giving us this shoulder with which we need to work together. We will be very committed to the Memorandum of Understanding that we're signing together through timely exchange of information and data and all other areas of cooperation.
The Sokoto Zonal Command of the National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, NAPTIP, has reunited the 22 survivors of human trafficking rescued in Niger Republic with their parents. The rescued victims were handed over by proxy in Sokoto after due consultations with their parents. The victims were headed to Tripoli in Libya before they were intercepted in Niger Republic and repatriated to Nigeria through the Nigeria Immigration Service. Well, that's it from the nation's capital. It's back to you, Amarachi.
Thanks a lot, Gloria. Here in Lagos, as part of plans to create value in the Nigerian pharmaceutical products value chain, Emzor Pharmaceuticals Limited says it's making incursions into the production of active pharmaceutical ingredients and vaccines. This came to the fore as the pharmaceutical company hosted members of the Association of Community Pharmacists at its new 60-hectare Shagamu campus in Ogun State. The company added that it had earlier launched a new anti-malarial drug called Zomel at the ACPN 40th annual meeting, also in Ogun State.
The drive to continually manufacture in Nigeria, create jobs and provide high-quality pharmaceutical products is why Emzor set up its new 60-hectare facility in Shagamu, Ogun State, the fourth on its list of manufacturing plants. Touring the state-of-the-art WHO-compliant facility are members of the Association of Community Pharmacists, and they end up in the oral dosage factory.
We have the finished goods warehouse, a secondary packaging material warehouse also there.
Now it's time to meet the founder, Mrs. Stella Okoli, who joins virtually.
Because we need to build plants in Nigeria and, improve the healthcare of our people.
And then a short presentation from the marketing team as Emzor announces a new anti-malaria drug.
Zomal also that Zolon is marketing was actually manufactured from this place, and more are yet to come. Okay? Then in improving access to other medicine like the cotrimoxazole that are used in intervention in the HIV cases and the rest of them, Emzor actually does a lot in such supplies.
The company also has plans in the area of active pharmaceutical ingredients.
There's an MOU that I think it has come to the stage where it's signed off with a very reputable company in India that actually they met the WHO qualification for manufacturing of API. In a short while, it will become a reality.
While the community pharmacists remain the grassroots link in the supply chain, for them, local manufacturing plants like Emzor's new facility renews hope.
I feel very proud, and there's a question I ask. Who are the people doing this? Are they expatriates? They said no, they are purely Nigerians. The people working in every sector are Nigerians. So that, for me, is another great contribution to the economy of Nigeria.
Emzor Pharmaceutical Limited began over 4 decades ago and manufactures over 200 products and medical consumables, including analgesics and vitamins.
We'll segue into business news. Here's Anne Mawudu.
Thank you, Marachi. Hello and welcome to Business News. To achieve industrialization and economic transformation, governments across Africa take right policy actions to maximize the Africa Free Trade Area. The Vice President, Yemi Osinbajo, said this at an event organized by the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, MAN. Professor Osinbajo says that it's important for African governments to make AfTA work because of the wider markets and economies of scale it offers. Some of these policies include the protection of local industries, improving value chains, as well as properly negotiating trade agreements to prevent transshipment and defection of trade. And now to some company news. Access Bank has released its audited half-year interim financial report for the period ended June the 30th. According to that statement sent to the Nigerian Stock Exchange, the bank's revenue rose by 14% to 450 billion naira, coming from 396 billion naira in the previous quarter. At the same time, the Tier 1 lender recorded a profit before tax growth of 31% year-on-year to 97.5 billion naira, while the profit after tax stood at 86.9 billion naira. Also, let's talk about the earnings per share. It grew 43% from 1 naira 73 kobo to 2 naira 48 kobo. Meanwhile, a dividend of 30 kobo per share has already been proposed for all investors. Well, it was moderate rebound for the local equities market as the all-share index rose today by 0.17%, pairing some losses made in the previous sessions this week. John Mekwa has the details.
From staying flat at midday to gaining 0.17%, the all-share index seems on a rebound after 3 consecutive negative sessions. So at least for now, the bull returns. The markets recouped 36 billion naira from the 156 billion naira it lost in the last 3 days. The market cap is still within the 20 trillion naira level and the all-share index within 39,000 points. More deals were carried out on the floor of the NGX today, almost 4,000. And this drove the volume of shares transacted to 262 million units worth almost 2 billion naira. Better figures than yesterday. The banking sector was very prominent today. In top advances, they had Wema Bank gaining 3.66% to close at 85 kobo. Top decliners, they had Unity Bank. It just shed 8.62% to close at 53 kobo, while top trades had Access Bank. 51 million units of its shares were traded today. The banking sector seems attractive to a lot of investors. Well, let's hope that the bull stabilizes on the floor of the NGX, and this will indicate more gains for investors. That's the stock market report. I'm John Mekwa.
Well, those positive numbers will end Business News tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Anne Mawudu. The rest of the news at 10 continues with Amarachi.
Thanks a lot, Anne. MTN Nigeria PLC has signed a 3-year contract with Nigeria Football Federation to become the official communications partner of the Super Eagles and other national teams. The company says it aims to engage football fans in alignment to their passion and ultimately develop the game in Nigeria.
MTN Nigeria PLC takes its investment in the development of Nigerian football a notch further.
Members of the MTN board here with us.
This time, MTN Nigeria PLC signs a 3-year renewable contract with the Nigerian Football Federation to become the official communications partner of the Super Eagles and other national teams. MTN Nigeria PLC says the partnership will bring Nigerian football fans closer to their darling teams.
Having the largest telecommunication provider sends a signal that there's a strong belief in football in Nigeria and actually encourages other corporates, other institutions to actually come and support our national teams. The value we bring, aside from the monetary value under which we're committed to in the contract, is also skills in terms of telecommunications, how we can support a lot of the initiatives that the NFF and our various football teams are undertaking in much more ways than just the sponsorship itself. And we have a tremendous focus, particularly on the women's team, who've done excellently well and we're extremely proud of. But all of the teams, including the youth teams, of course our Super Eagles are right at the front of that, but the Falcons are extremely important to us as well.
On their part, the Nigeria Football Federation commends MTN Nigeria PLC for its immense contribution to the success of the sport in the country.
Our goal is to attain 100% self-funding, because we believe football, when we have the enabling environment, which indeed we give kudos to the government, this government, they've created that enabling environment for us. So once you create an enabling environment, you're able to have companies that want to partner you. So we are very excited about that. But the truth is that it's out of our coffers. And what our goal is principally to have 100% self-funding. When I came into NFF, it was almost -0. But with this sponsorship, we are about 83–84% gone.
With the dotted line signed, the partnership is expected to spur all the national teams in Nigeria to glory in international competitions.
At least 15 people, including a 2-year-old boy, have died in New York, New Jersey and in Pennsylvania following the remnants of Hurricane Ida. President Joe Biden says Ida, mass floods and raging wildfires are evidence of a climate crisis. Simon Pusey has more international news and around the world in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Afghanistan's Taliban rulers say they are preparing to unveil their new government as the economy is on the edge of collapse more than 2 weeks after the militia's capture of Kabul. The Taliban have promised to allow safe passage out of the country for any foreigners or Afghans left behind, but with Kabul airport still closed, many were seeking to flee over land to neighbouring countries.
Provide safe passage and freedom of movement for...
In a joint press conference, Qatar's foreign minister said his country was talking with the Taliban and working with Turkey to help restart operations at Kabul airport. British Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab added he would work to secure safe passage through third countries for people who want to leave Afghanistan. Meanwhile, South Africa has said it is unable to take in refugees from Afghanistan. The government said it had been requested to accommodate refugees who were in Pakistan and other countries, but it was not in a position to accept them. In a statement, the South African Department of International Relations said that the refugees will be best served by remaining in Pakistan, their first country of arrival. Some other African countries, including Rwanda and Uganda, have agreed to host Afghan refugees as they wait to be resettled in other countries. Firefighters are working in Spain to retrieve dozens of cars trapped in flash floods that brought part of the country to a standstill. An intense storm on Wednesday wreaked havoc, leaving thousands of people without electricity and forcing the closure of some roads and rail links. The storm hit especially hard in the region of Catalonia. Emergency personnel rescued dozens of people trapped in vehicles, houses and camping facilities in the region. Spain's Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez tweeted that he stood in solidarity with affected areas while urging people to be extremely cautious and follow emergency services advice. Egypt says it plans to produce more than 1 billion doses of China's Sinovac COVID vaccine in a year. Health Minister Hala Zayed told reporters that under a deal with the Chinese firm, a factory in the capital Cairo would make more than 200 million doses a year for the local needs. Another factory will produce 5 times as many for export, mainly to African countries. So far, only 7.5 million people in Egypt, out of a population of more than 100 million, have received at least 1 dose. The Colombian Navy has seized 1.8 tons of cocaine being transported on board a semi-submersible vessel in the South Pacific. The operation prevented the trafficking and consumption of more than 44.5 million doses of cocaine in neighbouring countries, valued at $60 million. This last month, the Colombian Navy has intercepted more than $200 million worth in merchandise belonging to a FARC dissident group, with the seizure of more than 5.8 tons of narcotics, 3 semi-submersible naval devices and 3 speedboats. And finally, a surprise marriage proposal on the track at the Tokyo Paralympic Games.
I think there's a marriage proposal as well. Oh, really? It's fantastic.
Cape Verde's Quela Nadrea Pereiro Semedo had just run her 200 metres heat when her guide dropped down to one knee and popped the question.
Vega has just proposed, and she said yes by the looks of things.
Her competitors from the heat and their guides congratulated the pair as she accepted the proposal.
I've never commentated on a...
And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.
Just as well, we ended with the Paralympics. Ayotunde Balogun standing by with sports news.
Many thanks, Amarachi. The Minister of Youth and Sports Development, Mr. Sunday Dare, and the Special Assistant on Sports to President Muhammadu Buhari, Daniel Amokachi, received the first batch of Paralympians who returned home from Tokyo, Japan, earlier today. The athletes, mainly the powerlifters, arrived in Lagos this afternoon to the warm welcome of the Minister, ex-international Daniel Amokachi, as well as supporters. At the short reception held at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport, the Minister praised the athletes for giving their best and doing the nation proud.
You know, just even qualifying to get to the Olympics is a big deal. And these ones have gone there, they have done Nigeria proud. And that's why I'm here to receive them warmly. The same way we've received other batches of athletes that have gone out to represent Nigeria. Some of what you're seeing here is evidence of work that has been going on for 2-3 years. Not just on the part of government, but on the part of the athletes themselves. Discipline, sacrifice, consistency, training.
The 3-time African champions, the Super Eagles of Nigeria, will tomorrow begin the race to the Qatar 2022 FIFA World Cup and will take on the Lone Star of Liberia at the Teslim Balogun Stadium in Lagos. Now, the match, which comes up on Friday, will see the Eagles leap to top of the group with a win after group mates Cape Verde and Central African Republic battled to a 1-1 draw on Wednesday. Cristiano Ronaldo has been released early from the Portugal national team after picking up a suspension ahead of his return to Manchester United. The 36-year-old scored a world record 110th international goal as it fired Portugal to a dramatic victory over the Republic of Ireland in Wednesday's World Cup qualifier. And that's a wrap on sports news.
And the main news again. The Attorney General of the Federation today received the NDDC forensic report from the Niger Delta Minister, Godswill Akpabio. Report shows that oil companies operating in the country owed Nigeria $4 billion. Also, 13,000 projects uncompleted. Also today, the Governor of Kebbi State, Abubakar Bagudu, believes that legalizing carrying of arms would spell doom for the country. He also expressed hope that farmers would experience bumper harvest this year. That's the news at 10 tonight. Thanks for watching. I'm Amarachi Obani. Good night.